So back to the Randnet starter kit box that we saw earlier. If we rotate it a little bit, you see that it includes 4 main components: a cartridge, the unit itself, a disc, and a cable. So let's see what those are all about. Lift off the top here. The first thing we're going to see is a retainer tray that has the disc, the cable, and the cartridge. Let's take a look at those. The first thing we'll see is the Randnet kit. This is the software that allows you to connect to the Randnet servers. And in order to do that, you need to have an internet connection of some kind. Back in those days, in 1999, the most common way to connect to the internet, at least for consumers, was using a 56K modem in the phone lines. So that's exactly what this cartridge is. This is, for all intents and purposes, the N64 modem, and it interfaces with the cartridge slot on the N64, but on the back there is a telephone line in. So you had your internet coming through your telephone line, you use this cable right here to pipe that into the cartridge, and then the cartridge go in the slot on the N64 and give you 56K internet access in 1999, which was pretty cool. And this software would help you interpret that into the Randnet service. You also needed, of course, the 64DD, which is the main attraction in this package here. Let's take a look at some of the documentation. Add some sort of warning here. Looks like it says service, probably something about service. So if something were to go wrong, since Randnet is involved now, it may be a little bit more complicated than just contacting Nintendo. So this is the instruction manual for the 64DD add-on. Tells you how to connect it with your system, which is something I will show you how to do. Quite a lengthy manual. Then you also got an instruction manual for the modem that I just showed you. How to connect the modem to the console, how to connect the modem to the internet using a phone line. Then this last piece of documentation is probably just warnings and things about service, what to do and what not to do with your hardware. So that's the documentation. Let's take a look at the other pieces of hardware that came with this. You'll probably recognize this and this right away. This, of course, is the expansion pack that provides additional memory so that the N64 can run smoother. Particular games such as, I believe, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Donkey Kong 64, those games required this in order to display the graphics that it needed to display. This, I believe, requires the memory expansion pack in order to interface more efficiently with the 64DD. So they couldn't count on the fact that every consumer who bought this had one, so they included it with the package. And of course, down in here, if I can get it out, they have the little lever to help you not so much install it, but if ever you wanted to remove it, it kind of sits down in the console, as we're going to see in a little bit. You need this special piece in order to kind of pry it up and out of the system. Otherwise, you risk using a screwdriver and, you know, messing up your plastic. So you wouldn't want to do that. So everybody got an expansion pack who got the 64DD. And now, for the pièce de résistance, the 64DD. Now, although this was a commercial failure, this is everything that an add-on should be. And I say that because of the seamless and efficient way that this integrated and interfaced with the N64 console. If you think back to the Sega CD, the 32X, those add-ons all required their own power supply. If you take a look at the back of the 64DD, there is no AC port. You do not need an additional power supply because it's all handled by the Nintendo 64. The powering of this add-on and the data transfer between the N64 and it were all handled through the cartridge port. So all you needed to do to connect the N64 with the 64DD is remove the EXT port on the bottom of the system. Make sure that the pegs align with the little holes in the bottom of your N64, which mine are covered up. So that means we'll just have to use the N64 that came packaged with every Randnet starter kit. So let's take a look at that box. Like I said, I've already done a detailed unboxing of the N64 hardware. If you want to take a look at that, it's part of my Nintendo Unboxed series. The N64DD, as part of the Randnet starter kit, came with the clear black, which I've said I think is an odd choice given how nicely the standard charcoal N64 looks on top of the 64DD. But since I have little anti-slide feet on my N64 blocking those holes, I'm going to have to use the N64 that came with it, which I guess is just as appropriate since it came with it. So this is the clear black Japanese N64. So in order to allow these two to interface, just need to remove the EXT port on the bottom of the system, and this particular one does not have these holes blocked with anti-slide feet. So all you need to do is make sure that everything aligns, push down until you hear a small click, and in order to make sure that the two stay together, there are two little screws that you can tighten, not too much, but they make it so that you cannot separate the two. And you can see how seamlessly these two pieces of hardware integrate together. And the power supply, you know that the big brick kind of sits inside this recessed area in the back of the N64 case. This particular power supply was capable of powering not only the N64, but also the 64DD. And that's the way it would look. Now, in order for the N64 to be able to run with the 64DD, you did need to have the expansion pack installed. So I'm going to take out the null jumper pack here by using this little lever that Nintendo supplied with all expansion packs. Lift up on it. See, this is the jumper pack. Doesn't do anything, just kind of a placeholder. And then insert the expansion pack. Now the N64 has enough memory to interface with the 64DD. And one other thing that I'll show you before we move on is how the cartridges were inserted into the 64DD. So I'll take the F-Zero-X expansion kit disc. Of course, you want it, if you were going to use the label, to face out, and then the other label to face the top. And you can see how these discs were keyed. If you look at kind of the relief of the top of the cartridge, it matches, of course, the relief on the slot, meaning you could not put the game in upside down. Very child-proof that way. So see how that all lines up? Just push in, and there it is. All mechanical. If you hit the eject button, the game comes out. And you notice that can all be accomplished without having the system powered on. So all 64DD magnetic discs interfaced in that way. One other thing that I've always been curious about, and I'll do this here now that I have all of these things out, is confirm my suspicions about that strange routing channel you may have seen on the top of the 64DD. What I'm talking about is this. See this strange routing channel? that obviously seems like it's supposed to be for a cord. And I don't know if it was a future peripheral that was never released, but the only thing that was released that I can kind of figure that it was for was the N64 microphone. So I think what you were supposed to do is it's kind of hard to do since this cord is so kinked up, is route it through there. See, I don't even know if it's going to stay. See if I can get that. And then, of course, install the N64. And then what you would do is take the cartridge, of course if you've left yourself enough slack at the back here, to plug this into the Talent Studio cartridge, and then your microphone for the N64 could come out of the unit. So that is the only particular use I can find for that little cord channel on the top of the N64DD. Not really sure if that's what it was for, but it certainly works. So the last thing we're going to be taking a look at is the Nintendo 64 keyboard. And this was not part of the Randnet starter kit from what I understand. It was something that you had to buy separately. And of course it facilitated to a great extent online communication via typing text. So let's take a look and see what's inside this package. Ah, there's the Randnet logo I couldn't find before. Randnet DD. Be the best side. I think this side has been opened. Go. Now what's interesting is the choice of plastic. It is, if you take a look at it, very similar to the clear black plastic of the clear black N64. So this was obviously meant to pair with the Randnet starter kit. And this particular keyboard has the standard N64 controller plug. It has little legs on it for angled use that keyboards tend to have. The only thing is, it's quite small. It's not as long as a typical keyboard is, but it does have the little bumps for the home row here. And it's got pretty much full functionality with the exception of a numbered keypad on the right hand side. And of course it has keys dedicated to switching between katakana and hiragana and those types of functionalities that would be required if you were typing in Japanese. Also in the box for the keyboard was, as usual, an instruction manual telling you all the things you should and shouldn't do with the hardware. You open it up, looks like you have some sort of character map and some instructions for how to use it with the Randnet software. And also packaged in the box were some stickers. It looks like you could map some of the N64 controller buttons to keys on the keyboard, and you stick these stickers on those keys. And I think this little insert was giving you some suggestions for exactly which keys on the keyboard to map to which buttons on the controller. And this doesn't seem to be a sticker. It's got kind of a strange background. Maybe it was. It's black on the back, but some sort of warning, obviously. So that's everything that came with the N64 keyboard. So one final aspect of the 64DD that I thought I'd show you is the startup screen, which it's kind of odd for a cartridge-based system to have a startup screen like the PlayStation and the GameCube did, but 64DD actually has one. So if you turn the system on without a game, this is what you get. The N64 logo pops up out of kind of a liquid floor, and then if you wait long enough, there he is. Mario pops out and starts to do some strange things with the N64 logo. Now if you start the system up with the game already inserted in the 64DD, that game will load automatically. So what I'll do now is I'll put in a game. I'm going to use the Mario Maker Talent Studio. Kind of hard to see because I have low light in here. But I'll insert that into the system. And there you can see one of those me characters with an N64 logo kind of plastered on its face. I guess that's the picture they took for the skin of the polygon. And so there you have it, the N64 disk drive, or 64DD. An add-on peripheral release, not necessarily out of demand or even out of necessity, but basically just because Nintendo promised that it would be released pretty close to the beginning of the N64's lifespan. As a matter of fact, I think it was announced in 1995. And as time went on, they made the promise, they still hadn't delivered, and then they finally did, but through a very limited run and through subscription service only in Japan. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, you'll see me later.